If you're someone who has a never-ending to-do list, if you're constantly taking on more than you can handle, if you feel like you are behind on everything and behind everyone else, if you have no idea how you're going to get the things done you need to, then this video is for you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Cody Isabel. I'm a neuroscientist that helps developers and people in their 20s and 30s beat quarter-life crisis and the feelings that come with them. If you don't know what that is, or you're a developer who feels burnt out, be sure to check out the links in the description to see our deep dives into these topics. And if you're feeling massively overwhelmed, stay here, because by the end of this video, you will know how to use information chunking to deal with overwhelm and crazy to-do lists. Let's get started. For most of us, information, notifications, and tasks flood into our brain at a rapid rate, and so it makes sense that 74% of the population feels so stressed and overwhelmed that they are unable to cope. Let's take a quick look at some behavioral neuroscience to see what is going on here. Neurologically, this flood of information overextends our working memory, which is what you use to remember tiny small bits of information moment by moment. Some common examples are keeping a person's address in mind while being given directions, or dialing a phone number you were just told. You only need to remember the numbers long enough to dial them. After that, the memory starts to fade. And so when so much information is coming in, your working memory capacity is overwhelmed. And this type of overload on our working memory reduces our concentration, our attention, our problem-solving ability, and our literal decisiveness. Not only that, but more recent research shows that during working memory overload, our amygdala activity increases. The amygdala is the regulator of our emotions, and it's what causes you to feel stressed, and in some cases, your fight, flight, freeze response to activate. And worst of all, working memory overload is decreasing activity in the parts of our brain that help us control our positive self-talk. Put simply, you are physically less able to regulate your negative emotions. Your self-talk, your self-concept, the way you view yourself and the world around you becomes more negative. Yikes. So when you have information coming into your brain at a rapid rate that is spiking various emotions, and you're doing nothing to organize your thinking, that information that's left inside your mind becomes like a wrecking ball, physically causing parts of your brain to shut down. So the first way to start to get a handle on this is to do a brain dump. Dump it all out into one place, one piece of paper. Writing's ideal, but a Google Doc works as well. It's massively important because 70% of your brain is wired for visual processing. Until you've written all these questions and thoughts down, your brain can't see what's going on, which is where the underlying sense of anxiety you feel comes from. It's your brain trying to process the fear and aggression, but it's unable to because it's flying blind. So once you get all the moving thoughts out on your paper, your brain can navigate it better. Treat this list like a puzzle. You can solve this, one that you can regroup and reorganize until it fits what is right for you. And so once you have the brain dump list, what you'll do is chunk some of the information down and then group some of it together. Chunking down is for ensuring you have all the actual pieces of your plan, and grouping it together allows you to use the next step to prioritize the larger chunks of information. So like I just said, once the information is grouped together, prioritize them based on what is most urgent and what is most important, which cannot be missed, what has to be done first. I like to use a process called 3M, 1M, which stands for 3 most, 1 must. This is an easy way to attack a list like this. Once you have them all written out, go through it and pull the 3 most important ones, and of those 3, which one must you do? Then act. Start on the must first, and the other 2 after you complete what absolutely has to be done. Once you finish 3 things this way, go back to your list and repeat the prioritization process. This provides you with a list of precise, organized actions to take. I call this process CPA. Chunk, prioritize, act. Chunk down and together, prioritize what is most pressing, and then my favorite, act. So for example, let's say you have 4 work deadlines on 3 big projects you need to complete, and you have 1 project that you're not even sure how to do. You have to take your dog to the vet, you got to clean your house, and maybe you got a meal prep for the week, and let's say you also have a thought about a project step during the brain dump, like static Facebook banner for campaign 1. And ideally, you want to work out 2 more times this week and do your own self-care, which involves needing new shoes. Oh, and you also think of step 2 for project 2. Get anything and everything out on paper. By the way, I did this with one of my clients who's an AI developer, and this is the actual list she came up with. She's given me permission to share it so long as I take out all the sensitive company details. Now that we have her list, let's chunk it down and group things together so that you guys can get a feel for doing it yourself. So first would be writing out the 4 work deadlines and all the additional tasks to each project. Also, you'd want to write out the specific learning objective and where you'll be gathering the information from specifically. Add steps to the cleaning the apartment, and maybe add that to meal prep. You need to get groceries first. So now that we have chunked down completely, this is the master list, and it's time to chunk together. So the first chunk we can make are personal and professional. Then chunk the projects together and their deadlines, and chunk the cleaning tasks together. If you chunk down in an organized way, this part should be easy and mostly done. It's mainly for stragglers like the random project steps that came out during the brain dump. Okay, now this list you can prioritize. Big picture, what is the most important thing to get done on this list? Work deadlines, new shoes for work, and taking the dog to the vet. Then apply urgency to these, and of course, the work deadlines already have the urgency. Now use the 3M 1M process to decide. So here her must will be taking the dog to the vet and 2 steps from project 1, since it's due the soonest and she has learning to do for it. Once acting on this group of 3M 1M, she came back to her list and did the process again. This time, her must being learning in project 2 and her additional 2 being step 2 and 3 from project 2. Coming back again, she would have getting new shoes for work as her must and complete step 4 for project 2 and start step 1 for project 3. So we can be overwhelmed, but when you organize it into these bite-sized chunks, it begins to look a little bit more manageable, and you'd be surprised how much more effective you can be on a daily basis when you actually deal with this feeling of overwhelm. Just remember, brain dump it and CPA, chunk, prioritize, act. If you like this video and you're curious about how we attack mental health problems that arise in the midst of misinformation and overwhelm, be sure to like and subscribe for our next video. And until next time, live heroically. Hey, just one more quick tip before you go. Another way to break down overwhelm would be to chunk out areas of your life like personal, family, career, spiritual, then brain dump it, all that you want, all that you need in each of those areas, and then of course use the CPA process once again. Hope this helps.